device analyst at Wells Fargo. It's my pleasure to host this session with the management team from Edwards Lifesciences. With us, we have Bernard Zovighian, the new CEO, and Scott Olam, the CFO. In terms of format, it's going to be fireside chat. If anybody has a question, just raise your hand. We'll come around with the mic. Bernard and Scott, thanks so much for being here.
Our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Kevin, can you please start the clock? Thank you. All right, so let's jump in. Bernard, you recently became CEO. My question is, do you foresee any changes to the strategy going forward? Under Mike Mussallem, the company is very focused on innovation, structural heart disease, and critical care.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks for having us. Good morning, everybody. It is always, a privilege, to talk about the company. So I have been with the company now, for more than 8 years. And, we made, the decision, together as a leadership team. I am very confident about all of the decisions we made in the last, 8 years. So let me give you a sense about, why am I confident? It is mainly around, 4 things. The first one is about there are so many patients in need. Despite our success, there are still many patients who need, to be treated. The second element is about, we are in a position of strength. So before COVID, during COVID, we committed to big investment in R&D. We didn't step down, during COVID. We are heavily invested in R&D. And, when I look at what we have done, even, this year, very pleased about, the beginning of the year. Strong Q1, strong Q2, double-digit growth. We raised our guidance, 10 to 13% for full year. So feel good about, the position of strength we are in today. Number 3 is about our very unique strategy. We have about 2,000 engineers committed to bring breakthrough innovation, not just incremental innovation. We are, aiming to being first in any marketplace, we want to play and becoming the leader. Also, we are focused on, structural heart disease, critically ill, patients. So the benefit of that is what? Our people are very deep. We have domain knowledge. And finally, I feel very fortunate that, the leadership around me is very strong, very experienced. We are all committed to one mission, bringing breakthrough innovation to more patients. So because of all of that, I'm confident that what you are going to see is durable, sustainable growth from Edwards Lifesciences.
That's very helpful. How do you see Edwards' business changing over the next, call it, 5 years?
In short, what you can expect is, given the patient need, given our commitment to innovation, big change, more growth, and a more global footprint. Now, I can expand on that. And I'm sure, Scott, you may want to add, a few things. In TAVR, we expect, the market to grow, continue growing, low double digit, and us, maintaining our leadership position. How to do that? We are going to maintain our playbook. Best innovation, world-class science, high-touch model to ensure, great patient outcome. We believe also that we are going to be focusing on increasing, awareness, patient activation, indication expansion. So we see, this TAVR business, despite the fact it is a big business today, has the potential to grow double digit in the years to come, 5 years, 10 years. So even more than 5 years, Larry. TMTT, we have been focusing on 3 key value drivers. Best innovation, but also having a toolbox. Because these patients, mitral and tricuspid, are very diverse, very complex, and one device is not going to be sufficient. So having repair technology, replacement technology for mitral and tricuspid. Clinical evidence. At TCT, you are going to see more. And then, real world outcome, very pleased about with one technology so far. What you have seen is a very healthy momentum. So confidence about, TMTT2, surgical and critical care, continuing to bring innovation and science. So if you think about big picture, for us, we see that the market we are playing doubling between now and 2028, so a little bit more than 5 years, to $20 billion market potential, and us extending our leadership position. Scott, you want to add anything to that?
Well said.
That's helpful. Under Mike's leadership, the company talked about moving into new areas like heart failure,
Yeah.
but I don't think we saw that much. Under your leadership, do you expect to move more aggressively into new adjacencies?
So for sure, like I said, we are in a position of strength. We have a very strong P&L, very healthy, balance sheet, and we're very fortunate about that. I see ourselves remaining focusing on the patients we serve today. At the same time, what we noticed is we learned a lot in the past, few years about aortic stenosis patients, mitral patients, tricuspid patients, and we see an overlap with, heart failure patients. So yes, we have not discussed a lot about it, but we see an overlap. We have been very active. We have some investment, internal, external. We didn't talk a lot about it. We are not ready to talk a lot about it today, but we have some active investment, and when ready, we will talk more about it.
That's helpful. So let's switch gears and talk about TCT. I can't remember a meeting that could be more impactful, for the space and for you. You have important data coming out in TAVR, mitral, and tricuspid. Maybe, Bernard, and I know it's limited what you can say, but at a high level, how are you thinking about TCT and what it could mean for Edwards?
I am, one is very excited. Two, I am proud, because it is not just about saying that we are committed to innovation, that we are committed to clinical evidence. It is about doing it. We, a few years ago, we basically created, these 3 large studies, important studies, one for aortic patient, one for mitral patient, one for tricuspid patients. They are all, large, randomized, and we are going to follow, up, this patient for a long, period of time. So to be able to be at TCT and see this kind of evidence brought to the clinical community, I'm very proud about it. Now, can I talk about the result? No, I can't. We need to wait, for the result, to be presented. It is important. So at TCT, Mark and Scott, we are talking about having an investor event, and we are still thinking about when exactly. Correct, Scott?
Okay, Mark? Yeah, so Thursday, after the second of the 2 late breakers from Edwards on Thursday.
25th or 6th? 26th, I think. Okay,
Yeah.
Good to hear.
So we'll get details around everybody, but if you can join us, we'd love to have you. We'll have Edwards leaders as well as some physician leaders who participate in the clinical trials.
And that's after the third one, that would be?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
After
So
the
the
first
first
all
one-
3.
Well, that's helpful. Go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
So on the PARTNER 3, low-risk 5-year data, you're meeting with investors. People are going to ask you about it. Bernard, I saw the data, the curves converge between year 1 and 2. It was still in favor of TAVR, of SAPIEN 3. Is there anything you can point to, any public data that could allay people's concerns that those curves won't, continue to go in, let's go the wrong direction for you? Is there anything out there that you could point to?
No, so that's a good question, Larry. It is the typical question that everybody is asking before a study is presented. Don't you think? We want to know. I want to know. We want to know. I want to start with a big picture kind of answer, which is, let's look at the body of evidence on TAVR and the body of evidence on the SAPIEN platform. Unprecedented. All of them highly positive. And we have seen that, based on our global leadership. The SAPIEN platform delivers amazing safety, amazing efficacy, amazing ease of use. So very often, I hear some people, just, mentioning one element of a clinical endpoint. One element is important. We need to look at the body of evidence. Think about the physician. The night before, doing the procedure, with a patient, they meet with the family. and they tell them, we are going to take care of your dad or your mom, tomorrow. And what they know is with Sapien, it is predictable, it is safe, it is effective, it is durable, stroke rate is low, everything. So it is the full spectrum. So, summarizing, in my mind, an event with one piece of data, I don't believe it is the way to think about it. We are very, confident about our body of evidence. Our 2 years data were very strong, superiority of Sapien, and we feel good about it. Now, 5 years is going to bring us more information, adding to the body of evidence, and together we will discuss that when we have this data in front of us.
That's helpful. Got it. Okay. And just curious, Medtronic's focus is going to be showing 4-year data. Their curves at 3 years continue to diverge. And any concerns that might create a marketing advantage for them?
So it is tough for me to comment on. One is a competitive trial, but you think it is tough to comment on a competitive trial, tough to compare, trials. But we need to look at things, big picture again, looking at everything. The therapy arm, the control arm, the body of evidence, everything together.
Okay. And I think I understand the control arm. If I just look at the 2-year data, their control arm did, I think, worse than your control arm. So the SAVR, treatment control arm may not be the same.
I know you are deep into the data. You know all of this.
Okay. Okay, so let's move on. So TRISCEND II, that was a pleasant surprise on the Q2 call, interim analysis of TRISCEND II with EVOQUE for tricuspid. What data are we going to see there? I know you said you completed enrollment early this year. Are we only going to see out to 6 months, or will we see some patients out to 1 year or longer follow-up for those patients that were enrolled earlier?
Yeah. So the cohort you are going to see at TCT is what you are going to see is a planned interim analysis that was part of a study design. You are going to see a cohort of a patient at 30 days and 6 months. The full cohort of patients, again, TRISCEND II is a big study, 450 patients at 1 year. You will see that later, not in 2023. But again, we believe this first cohort is going to give us some great indication about tricuspid disease, which is not well known today, not well understood, and so this one with triluminate is going to inform the clinical community about the disease itself, the difference between two technology, a clip or tear device and a replacement device. So, but again, it is the beginning. But you think we are just at the beginning of a tricuspid journey. We see a great potential to help these patients. You know that, Larry, and I'm sure all of you. These patients have a terrible quality of life. There is no option for these patients. So if we can go there and provide solutions to physicians to help these patients. Also, these patients are a huge burden to the healthcare system. They go and see their physician on a regular basis. They go in the hospital on a regular basis. So being able to touch on everything will be important here.
So I was as bullish as anyone going into the triluminate data at ACC, but after talking to doctors about the data, I heard some disappointment because they only saw quality of life benefit. There were no trends on hard endpoints like heart failure hospitalizations and mortality. And so I guess my question is, and I hear the same things you do, high unmet clinical need, nothing else for these patients. What do you think is needed to drive adoption for tricuspid? Is quality of life enough, or do we need to see more than that?
So for sure, I heard the same than you. For some people, you have also another group of physicians who see the potential with the triluminate data. Because if you think about this patient population, I have met many of them before the Pascal tricuspid procedure or an EVOQUE tricuspid procedure, and I have seen them after. Their quality of life is completely different. So I am not sure that we can say, quality of life is not necessarily important. I say if we can reduce TR, if we can improve quality of life for these patients, and they can get back to a normal life, I say that's big already. Now, if like in TAVR, we can have a triple win impacting, mortality, quality of life, and the cost for the healthcare system, for sure it is even better. But in my mind, there is a starting point. You need to better understand the disease. You study, you have more study, and you go from there. So I cannot tell you about anything about the TRISCEND II study right now. But in my mind, quality of life is a big event for this patient, and we should not, undermine, this one. Anything to add here, Scott?
Scott's waiting for the financial question, for the 2023-24 question. Bernard, maybe a difficult question for you to answer, but 6-month data, it's hard to show in any trial an outcomes benefit at 6 months. Is that fair? I guess, like I said, I know it's a hard question to answer, but I was a little surprised to hear you're only presenting 6-month data because any invasive procedure, you have to pay an upfront penalty. You rarely see a benefit on outcomes at 6 months.
No, you're right. But because we thought that it was important to bring early evidence to the clinical community on the tricuspid disease, we decided when we designed the study to have, this interim analysis done. So this interim analysis will give us, plenty of learning. For sure, the full cohort, 450 patients, 6 months and 1 year, will give us more. But I'm still hopeful that given what I have seen with our TRISCEND I study, single-arm study, that, EVOQUE, was a very effective therapy for this patient. This patient, the day before they were hospitalized, were not able to have a normal life. A week later, they lost, 20 pounds of fluid. They were able, to walk again, to see their grandkids and do things and have back to having a normal life. I see some potential here.
Okay. All right. And I guess one more question. I mean, in mitral, repair has kind of outpaced replacement. In tricuspid, how do you see things playing out, repair versus replacement?
Yeah, you want me to compare both. What I am seeing is, if you look at the learning on the mitral side, TEER, even though has improved a lot over the years, and we demonstrated that with our Class 2D 6 months data last year at TCT, gets better in safety and efficacy and all of that. TEER can only treat a small portion of the mitral patients. And so we need both. We need replacement and TEER for mitral. We need, the same TEER and replacement for tricuspid. So your question is about which one is going to be bigger. I don't know. What I know for sure is both will be important for both, patient groups.
Okay, that's fair. And just lastly on TCT, switching gears, we're going to see the 1-year data from Class 2D. We've talked to doctors who said you usually see the same results at 6 months, at 12 months that you see at 6 months. I haven't checked other data sets, to be honest, but is there anything you can point to from older data sets where you see kind of similar results, 12 months that you see at 6 months?
It is tough, to compare trial, don't you think? And mitral is such, even though, TEER has been in the marketplace for 10 years, very little has been done in terms of clinical evidence. So we are committed to change that. So to compare trial, tough exercise. I would say we were very pleased with our 6 months data set showing that TEER is safe and effective and that PASCAL is durable from an efficacy standpoint, very durable from an efficacy standpoint. So, let's look at the 12 months data. But so far, the physicians have been reacting very well to what we have shown last TCT and well demonstrated by our momentum in the adoption of PASCAL in Europe and in the U.S.
Any more color you can add on the adoption of PASCAL in the U.S. since the launch?
It is going according to plan. You saw our results, in Q1 and Q2, TMTT growth is going well. We increase our guidance, for the year. We feel good about it. Yeah,
the other thing that we feel good about in the U.S. is really our primary focus at this point in the early days of the introduction has been on procedural success rate and clinician experience. And we've seen very positive results on both fronts. We saw the same thing in Europe, and we decided we'd take the same playbook to the US, where we're really trying to build a strong foundation that we're going to grow off for many years into the future as this market continues to grow. And it starts with physicians being well-trained, comfortable, and having excellent experience and outcomes with their patients. And we've seen that in the US, so we're really pleased with where we are.
Yeah, well said, Scott. Thanks.
So switching gears to TAVR. Most investors are hyper-focused on U.S. TAVR, right? You know that. I like the pipeline. But we'll talk about U.S. TAVR and just TAVR in general. You talked about earlier low double-digit CAGR for TAVR. I mean, what are the drivers? How confident are you in that? And maybe touch upon some of the issues you've seen in Japan. But what can you say on TAVR that will make people feel better? I think, look, we have early TAVR coming late next year, I believe. Progress 2028 or so. Progress, that's the moderate trial, right? But I think between now and early TAVR, how do you want people to think about the TAVR growth?
Very confident. I'm very confident about it. We are very confident about it. We see questions coming from some of you from the street about it. We are confident. We have think about what we have. We have an amazing technology, and so we are going to continue, executing on our playbook. Best innovation. There is more innovation coming. Even though we are very pleased with what we have today, we are launching a SAPIEN 3 Ultra RESILIA, which is going well. The body of evidence is excellent. Our field people, are supporting physicians to ensure we have best patient outcomes. So this is a playbook which is working. There are so many patients in need. We are just, in my mind, just scratching the surface here in terms of patient in needs. Then you have indication expansion, asymptomatic, moderate, who can increase this patient population in a big manner. And then we have a number of activity around improving the diagnosis of patients, improving the treatment rate of patients. So all of that together, we feel good that this market is going to grow low double digits, CAGR in the next years, 5 to 10 years, and this TAVR market doubling from 10 today to 20, I think something like that, in 2028. So feel excited about it. I think we are going to maintain our leadership position also.
And the competitive trialing in Japan?
So it is typical, it is happening. Every time there is a new therapy, a new competitor, physicians do what they should do, try it. And typically, they try it, more than one time, more than 2 times. Usually it is 10 patients, 15 patients, 20 patients. And this takes, like a couple of quarters, 3 quarters. And then, physicians are back to their preferred therapy. We have been the global leader forever. They know what they have with, the SAPIEN platform. So it is happening right now. We are very confident that we are the leader today in Japan. Sequentially, we grow in Q2. Year over year, we grew in Q2, even if it was, slightly below our expectation. But we are growing, and we believe that, it is going to be back to a more normal state.
Just one addition, which is we're excited that this year we're also introducing SAPIEN 3 Ultra RESILIA in Japan. And in Japan, we did not introduce SAPIEN 3 Ultra, so this is almost a 2-generation skip, and we're really enthusiastic about the reception we've seen from physicians in Japan who have started to use it.
And low risk, you also recently launched in Japan, right?
We did.
When was that, Scott? Do you remember?
Late last year, I think we got our low-risk indication.
So it is a little surprising that you've seen the softness, I think, to me, given you just launched low risk.
Well, you had a combination of, remember, it just came out of wave 7 of COVID in Japan, combined with competitive trial activity. So it was an active, kind of noisy first half of 2023. As Bernard said, we've got a lot of confidence in our continued leadership position in Japan, and our growth year over year and sequentially this year has demonstrated that we're still in a good place.
It depends how you look at, you said, softness. I'm looking at, we have been used to see many competitors, getting into the region in Europe, for instance, over the years. We have been in Europe, for more than 15 years, and we maintain our our European, leadership position. So it is typical. You have a new competitor, you see these kind of things happening. But again, we grew sequentially in quarter over quarter. We wanted to do more, but we still grew, in Q2, quarter over quarter. So yes, it is happening, but we feel good about, where we are going to end the year in Japan.
And so switching gears to the guidance, I think 10 to 13% for total Edwards, total TAVR. Scott, underlying growth, keep me honest here. How are you thinking about what gets you to the high end of that range?
Well, a lot of it just has to deal with, this more balanced staffing environment that we've seen unfolding in 2023. So that permits easier access to patients to get treatment they need, to get imaged and screened before treatment, but then ultimately getting their procedures as well. And so we're seeing a nice rebalancing of the environment generally where we're operating. We've expected there was going to be an uptick in the latter part of this year, and our guidance is still assuming that in Q3 and Q4. The reason we increased our guidance, originally it was 9 to 12, then 10 to 12, and then most recently 10 to 13, is because of the favorable performance we've seen in the first and second quarter. So we're hopeful that can continue in the second half.
Got it. And Scott, on 2024, just the puts and takes, and I think on the top and bottom line, and historically you've been pretty helpful when you see things that are, or things that you want to highlight or call out, like FX, tailwind, headwind to margins and things like that. What are some of the things we should be thinking about?
Well, FX is certainly one. In fact, remember at the beginning of this year, we thought we were going to have a big headwind to sales from FX in 2023, like $150 million. It's come way down from there to almost negligible. But at today's foreign exchange rates, if you just fast forward them to 2024, we would see a headwind to sales to some degree. We'll be able to quantify that better as we get to our investor conference. But that's always the case. I think more importantly, we're seeing margins that have normalized versus where they were in 2022, where there was a big FX impact. Now we're at more of a normalized baseline for a gross margin, and we'll talk more about how that may trend in 2024 later this year.
So right now the FX impact to gross margins in 24, did I hear you say neutral or just no comment right now?
No, I was talking about 2023
Right.
Is more of a normalized baseline gross
Normalized.
margin. We'll talk about 2024 gross margin at the investor conference in December.
But in terms of the FX impact in 2024 on the gross margin, no comment is what I'm hearing?
No comment until December, right?
I got it.
Now, from a pure business standpoint, Larry, look, we increased our guidance 10 to 13 this year. We are in a position of strength, going into next year. So we feel good about our four businesses.
And Bernard, at a high level, how do you want investors to think about the algorithm at Edwards? Is double-digit growth, an important goal for you each year? In terms of leveraged earnings, how do you want investors to think about, the algorithm for Edwards going forward?
So when Scott and I, and the leadership team, we have been discussing that a lot. But my point of view is a little bit the same as in the past, to think about us like having consistent, sustainable growth, double-digit growth. So it is not like, sometimes, you have companies here having a great year or great quarters, correct? Because comparables are easier. Here for us, no, we want to be consistent. We want to be durable, a company delivering this kind of durable growth, top line, double digit, committed to big investment, committing to the pipeline, committing to all of the patient in need. So this is the way to think about it. Now, EPS, leverage, for sure it is important here, but, this is the way we think about it.
Just on growth, Larry, if you just look back over the last several years, we feel really good about how we performed. There were a couple quarters last year where we were in 2022 where we didn't have the performance we were anticipating. But in 2023, year over year, 2-year CAGR, 3-year CAGR, 4-year CAGR, we've consistently demonstrated around double digit, 10% or more growth for TAVR and for the full company. So it's not going to be exactly consistent every single quarter, every 90 days, but over time, we've got this unique growth opportunity where organic sales growth, we think, is going to continue to perform nicely.
And capital allocation, can we expect any changes under your leadership, Bernard?
So we are very fortunate, to have this healthy, balance sheet and P&L. We have been very active, because most of our deals are, pre-market approval, and because, they are small in nature, we have not been public about it. But we invest, heavily internally to our pipeline, to our, clinical evidence, and we also have been very active in acquiring, small companies, technologies to complement our pipeline. So we feel good about that. I feel like we are going to continue doing that. Pre-market acquisitions, small, acquisitions, to make sure we have this differentiated pipeline to drive, the top line.
I would just add, the only thing I'd add to that is, our priorities have not changed at all. And one of our priorities is that we're going to continue to repurchase stock. We think it's an important way to return capital to investors. You saw us be very aggressive last year when we had the opportunity. And so we're not going to repurchase the same amount of stock every quarter, but over time, we intend to continue to offset dilution from incentive compensation and work the net share count down.
Couple of random questions here. Competition, you talked about maintaining a leadership position in TAVR. So two here. One is Medtronic promoting, better hemodynamics with Evolut FX versus SAPIEN 3, especially patients with small annulus or an annuli. What is Edwards' response?
So we are listening to all of this, and because we take, all of them competitive product technologies and company very seriously. Having said that, we look back and we look at the big picture. I know that, sometimes it is easier to pick on one element of a clinical evidence. We want to look at the body of evidence. It is the way physicians are looking at it. It is like, do we want to look at pacemaker rates, stroke, durability, safety, effectiveness, all of that. So it is why it is important, great to pick one or two. We believe that looking at the full body of evidence is the way that we should think about it, at least, for us. Anybody is free to do whatever they want, but I think physicians care about the patient, and so they care about, the body of evidence.
Okay. And you talked about competition also earlier. Some people are watching Boston Scientific's entry into the U.S. with ACURATE neo2. I think the short answer, I'd be curious to see if you agree, is more similar to, it's self-expanding, so more similar to CoreValve, Evolut. So is your view that because you're balloon expandable and a lot of other reasons, but that you're going to be more immune from losing share to neo2 when it comes to the U.S.?
Like I said, I want to start again with, we take everyone very seriously, as we should. Two is, we have been in the valve space for more than 60 years. For many companies, it's one of the business. For us, it is all what we do. We take, valve disease, very seriously, valve technology very seriously. We have seen, so many competitive products coming in and coming out. We have been very stable. We believe in our technology. So yes, we will look at it when they come to market. We will take seriously, but we feel good about what we have.
And X4, remind us of the status?
X4 is, we restarted, the study right now, and so we are going to give you, more update, probably during investor conference about the next steps.
Got it. And you'll continue an annual investor conference under your leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we decided on a date already, Mark?
Okay. I thought you were going to say maybe twice a year now.
No. December 7th at our corporate headquarters in Irvine this year.
Okay. Bernard, we've got a minute left. This has been a great opportunity to hear your perspective. Any closing remarks you want to leave people with?
No, look, I think like, I hope, you left, this conversation as confident as I am about the potential that we have in front of us. We have solid businesses. We are in a healthy position exiting COVID because we didn't stop investing. We have great foundation. I believe that, what you are going to see is durable, sustainable growth, from us. I believe it is going to be an exciting time. So thank you so much for your interest in Edwards Lifesciences.
Thank you. Bernard and Scott, thanks so much.